Hello and welcome to draft number 12 of the July ranked ladder on Arena Modern Horizons 3 drafts. We are in the middle of a bit of a rough patch. Last three drafts have been 3-3, 3-3, 2-3, and here we are coming into this one hoping to turn it around. So let's open some writhing chrysalises and get some freebies. That's what we're hoping for. So let's see how this one goes. There are no writhing chrysalises. That said, Galvanic Discharge is a perfectly fine pack one, pick one. There's also an Eldrazi Repurposer, Breathe Your Last, Wastegate Battle Mage, and Sink into Stupor. But Galv Discharge is just one of the most flexible cards in the format. Single red mana, being able to target anything. If you do have extra energy, you can kill anything with it. Barring Breaker of Creation having Hexproof from monocolored. But in the right deck, Galvanic Discharge can kill everything else in the format, and in just a deck without the rest of the energy, having, a Lightning Bolt variant, perfectly good. So, start off with a Discharge, and we'll see what we can find through the rest of the packs. Obviously, if we lean into energy, then we'll try to get ourselves into a good Boros shell. If we don't lean into the energy aspect and just want the efficient removal, then the Gruul Eldrazi deck is still the best deck in the format. So here's a Sowing Myco spawn, which is fine. 4 mana, 3/3 ramp card. If you have the extra mana and you get to kick it, being able to slow your opponent down is also useful. Also, this pack in general is a little on the weaker end. Twisted Riddle Keeper is a fine playable card. Temperamental Oozewag is a fine playable card. But everything in this pack is kind of on the mid tier, where you'll play it. You're not upset to play it, but none of it is particularly exciting. Here, the considerations are Metastatic Evangel, Glimpse the Impossible, and Malevolent Rumble. Glimpse is fine. Rumble, I think, is a little bit better. Yeah. I like taking Rumble here. Card's just a little bit better, I think, than Glimpse the Impossible. Looking at 4 cards and choosing the one that you want and having time to cast it or play it, it goes to your hand, as opposed to Glimpse, where you're paying 3 mana and quote-unquote drawing 3 cards, and if you don't use those cards, you get spawns instead, but you only have right now to do it, and it costs 3 mana, so a lot of the time you cast it, and you're paying 3 mana for 3 spawns, which is not really all that great, in my opinion. So here we have a pack where I'm not really happy about any of this. Wither and Bloom is the best card in the pack. Fangs of Colonia is okay, not great. Yeah, I honestly think it's just Wither and Bloom here. Wither and Bloom is just head and shoulders better, but again, we're talking about a pack that this pack is not exciting by any metrics. None of these cards are cornerstones of any of the decks. Yeah, we just grab the Wither and Bloom here. And here we have Expanding Ooze, we have Etched Slith, Pinnacle Monk. All of these are fine. We just came off the back of that green-black deck that we went 2-3 with, even though it looked pretty okay. I'm certainly not going to be trying to lean into green-black, but we'll see what happens. Etched Slith is just a reasonably good card. It doesn't require anything around it to be reasonable, and it lets me potentially be red-black or red-green depending on what we see. It is an artifact, so it plays into the Rakdos Affinity deck. It is a modified creature, so it can play into the green-black deck as well. Yeah, and here we see a Disciple of Freyles, or a Retrofitted Transmigrant, or a Temporal Oozewag. So if we want just the generically best card, it's Disciple of Freyles, the modal dual-faced card. If we want the card that plays into a theme, it's either the retrofitted Transmigrant or the Temperamental Oozewag, either the modified theme or the artifact theme. We took the Disciple, which I think is just correct. It's just the best card out of the three. Here's a Victimize. So this is looking like we're going to wind up getting stuck in black-green again. But like based on what we're seeing in the packs, I'm not passing very good cards in other colors. I don't know. Maybe we're just hitting a rough patch where the packs aren't cooperating. I know it felt like that a little while ago before we got that trophy with the like Nadu Teamer deck. But you know, some drafts you just see powerful cards and you're excited and you're happy to play them, and some drafts you see like playable cards and your deck is, you know, fine, but it's really hard to compete in the league system where, you know, some people are going to have just much more powerful decks than you just based on the packs that were opened. So nothing into a Transmigrant. Yeah. It looks like this discharge is getting moved to the side. Again, not very happy to be off to another Golgari start, but it is what it is. Shifting Woodwind, fine card. Shifting Woodwind doesn't wheel all the time. A little interesting to see it all the way around 11th pick. But that's alright. What are we looking for here? So, assuming we stay on this, we don't really have... I guess we're hoping the expanding ooze comes all the way back around, but that seems a little unlikely. It was pretty middle of the pack. It would have to be like almost last or near last pick. A bunch of blue cards, none of which are like particularly good. Yeah, like I said, we're not passing insane power level cards. I'm just not really seeing much. I think this... we might just have to chalk this up to a run of not great packs. The Drossclaw coming around late is not unexpected, but perfectly good by us. And here's a reason to potentially move off green with the Lelia. There is a Writhing Chrysalis down there. There's another Wither and Bloom. There's a Horrific Assault. Horrific Assault not at its best in the black-green deck, but it's fine. Wither and Bloom just always solid. We could potentially play like a Jund deck and grab this Writhing Chrysalis. I kind of like the Lelia, though. There's also the Glasswing Grace, but I don't think we're taking it over some of these more powerful cards. Yeah, whether we grab the Writhing Chrysalis or the Lelia, I think the Galvanic Discharge is back in the conversation. Alright, so we're grabbing the Lelia. And that's a lot of red cards. Okay, so double Fanged Flames, Reckless Pyrosurfer, Pinnacle Monk. I think, yeah, we just grab a Fanged Flames here, right? Like, and now we have some options. Our green cards are pretty medium. We have Malevolent Rumble, Myca Spawn, Disciple, Shifting Woodwind. These are all fine, but not necessarily what we want. If we are going to get past red cards, we'll see. Like, right now, we don't know yet. Like, this pack right here has a bunch of nothing that we really want to be playing. There's a Drossclaw, Consuming Corruption, and a Landscape. And the Landscape isn't even particularly good for us. Yeah, we're just grabbing this Drossclaw. There's a Cursed Wombat and a Stump Stomp. So, notably, the green cards that we already have don't lean into the modified deck. Stump Stomp is going to be good either way, whether we do wind up green or stay with red here. Propagator Drone versus Wither and Bloom. We're just going to grab the Wither and Bloom. So this pack is better than the first pack. Like, just in general, the power level of pack 2, all the cards that we're seeing is better than what we saw in pack 1. I'm not sure in the moment if I should have just doubled down on the Golgari deck, since we are seeing some green cards coming this way, or if moving into these red cards. Like, the only red card we had in pack 1 was Galvanic Discharge. But so far in pack 2, we've gotten Fanged Flame, Stump Stomp, and Lelia. There's a second Cursed Wombat. Man. I feel like I'm getting punked. I feel like I'm getting messed with here. Yeah. Like, we gotta take the Wombat, right? Like, the Skoa's not exciting by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. Here's an Expanding Ooze, too. And no, like, particularly good red cards. But now here's a Cranial Ram. God, we're getting pulled in, like, every direction. We might just wind up Jund here and make me very, very sad. The Sowing Mycospawn can help, because it can help find us a land to help fix our colors. Malevolent Rumble can sort of do that as well. Glasswing Graces. Yeah, we'll play Glasswing Grace. That's kind of a non-issue. Alright, so Pinnacle Monk versus Temporary Oozewag. We have Discharge, Fanged Flames, Double Wither and Bloom, Victimize, Stump Stomp. Pinnacle Monk has a lot of stuff to rebuy, I think. So of the cards sitting in our sideboard for green at the moment, we have Shifting Woodwind, Disciple of Freyalise, and Malevolent Rumble as cards that we can still consider. I don't know. This draft feels like we're getting pulled by both arms for either red or green, with black being the only thing that we're sure that we're playing. If we can pick up mana fixing, then being like actual Jund isn't the worst thing in the world. But we'll see what happens there. So there's a Cranial Ram, a Stump Stomp, Off-Color Landscape, Gatekeeper, and Glimpse. I think this is just another Stump Stomp. Because if we do wind up splashing, like, whether we're black-green or black-red, we can play Stump Stomp. So the card's like a guarantee to be in our deck no matter what. And also, depending on what our mana looks like, we can potentially play all 3 colors. Here's a Fanged Flames. Fanged Flames number 2 over Expanding Ooze number 2, which I think is completely reasonable. This Wombat, despite being very good, only really works with the Etched Slith and the Expanding Ooze. And the Lelia, but that's a wild twist. Warren Soul Trader, Eldrazi Linebreaker, Ral and the Implicit Maze, a Cursed Marauder are all the cards that I think are worth considering. We don't really have the colorless mana to be able to cast the Linebreaker easily. Soul Trader is good, and Ral and the Implicit Maze is good, but it's going to be harder on our mana, especially if we wind up 3 color. The Warren Soul Trader potentially helps us cast our cards, being able to sacrifice like Germ Tokens or the Transmigrant, or obviously anything that gets targeted by removal. Yeah. So yeah, you see me kind of cutting all the green cards at this point. The Wombat just doesn't do enough in our deck, I don't think. The Shifting Woodwind is going to be a little too hard to activate given where we're at. The Expanding Ooze, again, Like, it's a good standalone card, but it's just not really doing what we needed to do. We could have had 3 Cursed Wombats this deck. That's so wild. But we're gonna take this Wormcoil Larva here. Here's a Wumpus Aberration. If we were on green, here's another Wither and Bloom. Yeah, I don't know. This draft just feels like we got dragged in different directions. The Wumpus Aberration, I think, is pretty bad in this deck again. Just because we don't have the colorless mana. Like, the card just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So, just trying to figure out what we're looking at. So we're moving all the removal into a pile. So our removal is good. And this is what's left as far as our creatures. Another Drossclaw is fine. Like, Drossclaw is not incredible by any means, right? Like, it's 2 mana, you get a 1/1, but, like, the ability of that card to help close out games, there's a second Cranial Ram to go with it. The Germs, 3rd Cranial Ram. Okay. Alright. This deck is actually kind of coming together. The Rakdos Affinity deck has the potential to just kind of win games if you can get under your opponents. And the Drossclaws, despite being kind of medium, like on turn 2, do a good job of helping close out the games when they get close, right? So if you can get your opponent down to the last 2 or 3 points of life, then being able to just attack and get the damage through with the Drossclaws, especially if you can manage to put them on anything that doesn't die, even if it's getting blocked, as long as it's not dying, the Drossclaws can close out the game through a stalled board. So, Draftsmith wanting us to trim on lands since we have, what, 4? Yeah, 4 Modal Face dual lands. That puts us at 14, 18 mana sources and play the Victimize. That actually looks kind of okay to me. The Refurbished Familiar realistically costs 2 or 3 mana, so we have 2 5s, and otherwise we stop at 3. So we can afford to be a little bit light on land, but with all the modal dual-faced lands, this still gives us access to 18 mana sources. The Consuming Corruption is medium, but we do have 9 swamps in our deck, making it a little bit better than it is in other circumstances. Yeah, alright, so that's what we're going with. The curve on this deck looks fine, so this one has some potential. We get to be on the play. That's nice. Yeah, I think leading on the Stump is fine. Yeah, alright. So we draw a 2-drop, which is ideal since our hand was entirely reactive. Just a bunch of removal spells. Sneaky Snacker. Not the best, but we do have the Fanged Flames to just get it out of here forever, so we don't have to worry about it again. Drossclaw in for 2. We did aggressively use that Fanged Flames, but again, the Snacker specifically, just a very frustrating card to deal with over time. So this turn we kind of have to choose between developing our board more with like the Etch Slith or getting rid of that Kami and getting an attack in due to only having 1 black source so far. So 9 swamps plus the Glasswing Grace versus 5 mountains and 3 modal dual-faced red cards. So, a little unfortunate to have only drawn the 1 black source when there are 10 in the deck, but I'm convinced that Arena just is destined to make my Consuming Corruptions look bad every time I draft them. Okay. This is a little aggressive. We're giving up a body, but like the body has a difficult time getting through a 1/3 with Death Touch. So just moving the Drawsclaw over and getting in the extra points of damage here. Like we kill off the Germ, but we're +2 damage by moving it to the Etchslith. So let's hope that doesn't ultimately matter. Yeah, like this Accursed Marauder would have killed off the Etchslith regardless. So, but we are down a Germ now. Alright, Cranial Ram isn't bad. Get that down, equip the Drawsclaw to it. And now we have a 3-power thing that we can offer a trade with the Kami next turn. Or we can just Wither and Bloom, depending on what opponent ultimately does. We're in a weird spot where we both kind of want a land, but we also need some gas, which isn't the best spot to be. I think we're okay. Well, I guess this is what we're just going to keep doing. Yep. Slightly bigger this time. So we have drawn 2 Drawsclaws and a Cranial Ram and an Etchslith as our kind of threats. And Consuming Corruption as the worst possible removal spell. More lifelink, more Death Touch from our opponent. We did draw the second Black Source, which is pretty important. So yikes. Alright. If we attack, our opponent very likely just trades off the Kami for the Germ, which doesn't really get us where we need to be. Okay. Alright, this is probably best case, because we get to Row and clean up the larva tokens. The Kami is still there and still a problem, but we do still have this Wither and Bloom in hand. As the game goes on, if we draw another Swamp, the Consuming Corruption starts to get more appealing. We are going to get to discard next turn, so if, depending on what we draw, we can discard the Consuming Corruption or the new card. Okay, that's not ideal. I think we discard the Consuming Corruption. Like, the Wither and Bloom kills either of these things. The Consuming Corruption only kills one of them. Tamiyo probably has to die. We're going to discard this land and get 2 new cards. Alright, so Galvanic Discharge kills the Tamiyo right now, which I think is important. Just make sure our opponent doesn't get that card advantage. And then I think we hold the Wither and Bloom. Like, we can just kind of take a hit this turn. Next turn, we'll get the weird token. We can start equipping it, and we have the Wither and Bloom to trigger it as well. And then we're just trying to race, presumably, this Refurbished Familiar. Opponent has a Drawsclaw of their own, which means that they have the chip shot damage, the same thing that I was talking about when we were in the draft portion. Viscerator's Insight on the Germ to get some more cards. So they would have been able to flip their Tamiyo right away. We're going to go ahead and kill the Kami now, even though we deny ourselves the counter on the weird. just so it doesn't get the opportunity to activate. That'll have been the third card they draw, so they could activate for free this turn. So that Kami has done quite a bit of work this game. It cost us quite a bit. Weirdly enough, I think we only have one actual creature in our graveyard. Yeah, the Etchslith. So this Victimize is not great. So yeah, we're just gonna load up here. We have a 7/5 weird, which with double Dross Claw. So it's going to be capable of getting in quite a bit of damage. Okay. So opponent's out of gas, we're out of gas. That Fanged Flames on the Obstinate Gargoyle to make sure that it doesn't persist is pretty nice. They get booped twice. We shrink to a 6/6, but that's fine. 9. That makes this a lethal attacker next turn. So depending on what our opponent can do, we're at 14, so we're not looking like we're in tremendous danger here. If they, yeah, they didn't even throw away their cards, so like they have one creature. We can use the Wither and Blooms to buff up our weird if we need to. It's a little awkward. So they can offer up, they can double block for the trade here, which is less than ideal. We don't really want to cast the Victimize. Yeah. I don't think we needed to do all that, right? Oh, I guess that puts it to they have 7, so they have to just jump. Never mind. That was just correct. By using both Wither and Blooms, we go to 1 more toughness than they have power, so they're just forced to jump rather than be able to double block and trade. The Dross Claws continuing to do their job and just get these chip shot damage through despite our opponent having to chump, and as long as this weird sticks around, it's gigantic. That said, our opponent is in like a color combination that is explicitly capable of killing a giant creature. As long as Toxic Deluge isn't their only out, like half of the white removal kills it. Alright, there's another Kami. Plus they drew extra cards, so they get to do this. We really, really, really need to find a way to clear our opponent. So if we attack this turn, they trade with the Kami, most likely. We play Warren Soul Trader and just equip it up. Continue to put the pressure on our opponent to be able to have to answer everything that we have. We could no attack, but that gives our opponent quite a bit of opportunity to just try to grind us out with this Kami. They have the Eviscerator's Insight here. We do have more removal, like quite a bit more removal. 2 more Wither and Blooms, plus another Stump Stomp. I think we have a second Fanged Flames, or did we use both of those? I don't remember. I think we used both. Yeah, because we killed the Gargoyle. Okay, so we're not trying to attack this turn if we're making this play. We're just putting both of our creatures in a position where they can be reasonable in combat. Okay, Marionette Apprentice represents 2 more blockers, making our life just a little bit more difficult. Unless opponent can clear the weird token, they don't have any attacks this turn. I suppose they could attack with just the Kami, but that seems bad because it allows us to attack back. Okay, there's the Eviscerator's Insight. So they get another trigger with the Kami of Jealous Thirst. They get to boop us with the Marionette Apprentice. And yeah, we would really like... Is that good? Alright, if we cast Lelia... And then what? We can move the Cranial Ram over. Cast Lelia, move the Cranial Ram over. I think it's got to be the Ram so that it can potentially trade with the Gargantua, right? Or just attack with everything. If we attack with everything, what happens? The Gargantua eats the Lelia, the Kami trades with the weird. The Marionette Apprentice doesn't have to block, but they go to 1, and that's pretty dangerous. We hit a Stomp. Okay. So whatever of ours that survives, we can potentially kill our opponent's stuff. Yep. Alright, so they're not going to 1. We take some damage. This is a punch, so we get to shoot down the Gargantua. We have a... Yeah, I like not playing the Swamp here in case our opponent does have... like a Victimize or something to get back, or another Refurbished Familiar. We want to have the thing that we can discard. We don't need to equip the Dross Claws right away. So, opponent needs to beat this lethal creature. Chump Blocker will buy them a turn. Okay, so they're going to find a 3-drop. They go to 4, but they get to go find a 3-drop. And Breathe Your Last, sure. And there's a 3rd blocker as well. Okay. So... What does this look like? They have 1, 4, 5, 6, 7 showing. So opponent has 7 damage showing, which is a bit scary. They do have to block here. What is the Nightblade? When something dies, they drain life for 1. They go to 2. They have to block. Okay. Yeah, so they go to 3, we go to 7. 1, 4, 5, 6. They're showing 7. We messed this up. This attack was bad. They have exactly 7 on board. I don't know that we could have really done anything much different, though. The Breathe Your Last doesn't really matter. Like, it matters, but it doesn't... The fact that they can kill us is what matters more. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's 7 damage because the Nightblade got to do its thing. Dang. We just couldn't quite get over the hump. They gained enough life. They bought enough time. Unfortunate. Yeah, the extra Dross Claw wouldn't have mattered. Victimize doesn't do anything because we just never drew real creatures. We just drew the living weapon cards. So, yeah, as long as they jump the Nightblade, they win. Or, yeah, as long as they jump the Nightblade, they win. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, or land gets it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. They can jump the Nightblade. They can just kill my Germ token. It doesn't matter. As long as they double equip. Okay. That's a bit of an annoying start. Felt like we were doing okay. We just couldn't quite find what we needed when we needed it. There was at least one turn where we just got held off by a Death Toucher. Yep. Completely unnecessary. And we're just dead. Very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. Okay. On to the next one. Shake it off. Got a woo-saw. H.S. Ben. I feel like I've seen that name before or played against them before. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. All right. This hand is fine, not great. We'll keep it. We have our red source in the Pinnacle Monk, so there you go. Now we don't even need to play the Pinnacle Monk unless we need to play the Ral and the Implicit Maze. All right. So keeping the colorless from our opponent, choosing not to crack it, and Forest. It that heralds the end. Yeah, let's get a menace threat down and be able to back it up with some removal. Propagator drone. Okay. In a perfect world, our opponent just plays out a bunch of, these like 2/2s and similar, and we get to sweep it all up with the Ral and the Implicit Maze. But we'll see if that actually happens, since we all know that this world, in fact, ain't perfect. Okay. Um. All right. Just play the land. Don't forget to play a land. All right. We didn't have to kill off that drone. On the other hand, though, if we're not killing it off, then we're potentially taking a bunch of damage, which probably isn't great. Horrific Assault is fine. It's not ideal for us, but it's not the worst either. I think we should get the Pinnacle Monk down now rather than wind up paying 3 life and just get the Dross Claw. Yeah. We don't need to Fanged Flames down the It that heralds the end. Certainly not at the moment, at least. Ral and the Implicit Maze can clean up it and potentially something else. Not anymore. Perfect. So now we kind of have to just get this Wormcoil Larva down so that we can trade off with the Titan's Vanguard, which is going to make the It that heralds the end a 4/4. We could also Wither and Bloom plus Fanged Flames on the Titan's Vanguard if we want to, but I don't really like that. I think I'd rather just get the Wormcoil down. Like double kill spell, we're still stuck dealing with that 3/3 that's chunking in on us that we can't like block, that we can't really do anything about. The Wormcoil Larva at least beats a random, like a single removal spell. We still have the Death Toucher to block the Titan's Vanguard. It does not, however, beat Utter Insignificance. So, yeah, great. This is wonderful. Now we have to Wither and Bloom plus Fanged Flames, and then there's a 4/4 left over. Alright, sure, I guess. I don't... Yeah, that sucked. That was just awful. Okay. So, Yep, off to a great 0-2 start. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not catching any breaks. I'm not seeing like glaringly obviously bad plays. I know in the draft we kind of got tugged back and forth between being black green and black red. And yeah, I don't know. Just a little bit frustrating. Nothing to do here. In my Rakdos Affinity deck, it looks like we're going to be casting a 4 mana refurbished familiar. So, yeah, that's cool. It looks like it's going to be okay. Like, our opponent's not out to a really quick start either. We get to Wither and Bloom to kill off their thing. Refurbished familiar. Next turn we can either Cranial Ram plus Equip or Cranial Ram plus Fanged Flames. Yeah, they're going to discharge my familiar, that's fine. But they still also have to discard a card. So familiar being a clean 2 for 1. Alright. Sure. Yep. Kill your thing, Cranial Ram. Fang Flames is a sorcery, just in case anybody is curious or questioning why we just threw it out there right away. Alright, Glimpse reveals nothing. I don't know if they were ramping, because they played their land before they played the Glimpse. So I'm not sure if they, like, on purpose were trying to just get 3 Scion tokens. If they were, that's kind of scary. We would really, really like to draw a land here. Or we didn't, but we would have really liked to draw land there so we could ral away their Scion tokens, make the Glimpse just a time walk, basically. But, alright, they have a lot of mana. 6. Okay. Alright, that's not the worst thing in the world. Okay, so we drew the land. So, yeah, we can... They have no cards in hand. They used all of their mana to cast the Furnace Hellkite. So just killing it and getting in and having this Ral to clean up the anything small, like the tokens, or if they draw anything small, the Rals can just clean it up. Alright, Repurposer doesn't explicitly die, but what we might be able to do is get them to block our Germ. If we just attack as is, they might... No, because we need it to trade. Never mind. Yeah, so do this. Sweep up this. Hold on to the land so that we can discard it to the Rals. Yeah, we would have needed to use the counter from the Wither and Bloom just to force the trade on the Repurposer, and that's just not worthwhile. Here's a Pinnacle Monk that can rebuy. I think maybe they should have rebought the Glimpse, if I'm being honest. Like, they have a bunch of mana now, so like the Glimpse potentially could have just been a draw 3. We'll take this, though. So I don't think we have to do anything here. The problem is if they just hold up this Galvanic Discharge for any real length of time, then our Weird is never gonna get to survive, unfortunately. So we don't have any good attacks here. We can... I don't know if force is the right word, but we can pseudo force the Wither and Bloom, or I'm sorry, the Galvanic Discharge by putting the Glasswing Grace on our Germ token. Okay. We're certainly going to take this. Yeah, like, that's kind of best case scenario for us, right? Because now our Row in the Implicit Maze pops off, turns into a weird, and we can. I don't think we even need to use this Wither and Bloom right now. Like, we could have just saved it for. Oh, I guess we wouldn't have been able to cast the Glasswing Grace and the Wither and Bloom, so we might as well use it now. Never mind. Ignore what I just said. But yeah, so now we have this flying weird. Uh, Annoyed Altasaur into Writhing Chrysalis is pretty fucking good, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, just make your guys bigger. Yeah, yep, that all happened. So we can Pinnacle Monk to get back. What? What do we get back? If we get back Wither and Bloom and attack, we go to being a 6/6. We go to being a 6/6. They can double block. We shrink one of them. That's one. That's just a trade. We get to trade for our choice of Chrysalis or Altasaur. Yeah, I like no attacks here. We just have the Wither and Bloom. Okay, Malevolent Rumble lets them grow the Chrysalis a little. Yeah, Molten Gatekeeper is the only body among the things. The Shifting Woodwind would have been fine for them too, I think. They're just very intent on growing their Writhing Chrysalis, it seems, which is fine. They can't really afford to attack. Unfortunately, I also can't really afford to attack right now. Alright, the second Wither and Bloom actually makes this kind of nice for me. We can equip the Cranial Ram now, and then we have double Wither and Bloom, which means we win combat. And they're kind of forced to double block if they're trying to trade at all. We just got to make sure that Auto Tapper doesn't tap double black here. Alright. So we're not equipping Cranial Ram. We still win the combat with double Wither and Bloom. An opponent knows we have double Wither and Bloom here. So, or that we have at least one. This block doesn't make any sense to me. Like, opponent knows that we have Wither and Bloom in hand, so, like, this block is literally just cast my spell that they know about, and that seems pretty off to me. Okay, no blocks. I mean, actually, I just block, right? Yeah, no. They played their land out of hand. They're not even representing anything. We just get this. Never mind. Yeah. Opponent is making some mistakes here that are making it pretty easy to capitalize. Yeah. Just put this here, fly over for 8, 2-turn clock in the air, gain 1,000,000 life. We should not be, like, even able to lose this game, I don't think. Put this, moving the Cranial Ram onto the Pinnacle Monk means that our opponent can't top deck Ral in the Implicit Maze to get a 2-for-1 here. Even, like, they need more than that anyway. Sure. You got it. All right, GG's. Um, yeah, that was a weird game. I think our opponent made some mistakes there. Like they didn't play around known information, which is strange. They could be a newer player. We're on a bit of a skid, and Arena might have been like, "Hey, you need a break." Which unfortunately, it's right. I do. I'm not playing. I'm not doing very well. Okay, we have two threats. We have some removal. The Stump Stomp is not great with some Dross Claws that are 1/1s. The Victimize is not great with no creatures. So, fingers crossed. Okay. The Stump Stomp suddenly is not that bad because we have a target. They are trading the germs. I'm very okay trading the germs. Okay, so looks like we have a Rakdos Mirror. Lelia off the top, fantastic. If she hits a land, even better. That's a land. Great. So Lelia off the top drew me a card, made sure I hit my land drop for turn. That's quite good. So Lelia's going to get bigger here regardless. The Dreadmobile doesn't matter. And they can crew it right now. Yeah, we can just Fanged Flames this Condor here. If they want to animate the Dreadmobile in response, that's fine. Now we get to Wither and Bloom the Dreadmobile as well. But yeah, first we get to attack with Lelia. Sure, attack with both. See what we draw. And then Wither and Bloom. We lose our Wormcoil Larva, which sucks a little bit, but we're in for a bunch of damage, and our opponent has not answered any of our threats. And this Lelia is starting to get to the point where it's going to be able to run the gamut. Yeah. Yep. So Stump Stomp. Does this end the game? It's real close, right? Yeah, we equip Drossclaw. Yeah, so this is 8. Okay. It's 9, right? Lelia is a 4/4, goes to being a 5/5. Drossclaw adds +1/+1, so we're attacking for 5, 6, 7, and 2 Drossclaw triggers. Alright, so yeah, we drew Lelia and we won the game. Hooray, Lelia. So 2 and 2. This deck is certainly capable of some explosive damage. This hand looks pretty good. We get to go Cranial Ram. I think we have to play the Stump Stomp on 1. Yeah. No, don't do that. Alright, so I think we needed to play the Stump Stomp on 1. We can discharge that if we want to, but we don't have anything to do with that energy, though we can Pinnacle Monk back the discharge later and have basically 5 damage available for 1 mana. But I believe the 1 discharge is the only energy card in our deck. So the awkward thing here is because we didn't play the Stump Stomp on turn 1 or any of our tapped lands on turn 1, now we don't have the option of getting this Refurbished Familiar down this turn and just having a flying threat that we could have started strapping up Cranial Ram to. Yeah, and now opponent has it. I think we discard the Victimize. Victimize doesn't really do anything here. We do get to clean up pretty well if we can draw another land. The Ral and the Implicit Maze will be able to clean up pretty well. So yeah, we get to Drossclaw here kind of for free because it discounts the Familiar anyway. Play our own Familiar. They discard a card. we play Stump Stomp for turn as land for turn, and then a land off the top lets us clean up. I think we do have to play the Stump Stomp as a land, which it does open us up to Refurbished Familiar a little bit, but like if we don't play the land, then we're discarding it, and then we can't Ral anyway. Not sure. I guess they're just going to move the equipment over. Sure. Okay, so now the Ral and the Implicit Maze is a little bit worse. We no longer get to full sweep their board. We did draw the land. So I think we kind of have to just... We can attack with these Dross Claws, and then I think we have to equip our own Familiar and hope our opponent doesn't have removal so that we can block. If they do have removal, we're just kind of we're gonna die anyway. Okay. Block and trade there is fine. No block is also fine. So yeah, I think we play the land, equip the Cranial Ram, and pass. With the intent... Okay, this just potentially loses us the game, right? We needed to trade Familiars here, I think. 7... Pay 2, equip is 8, attack is 9. Yeah, now we're chump blocking. Yep. 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 Yeah, now we're chump blocking. Whereas if we equip the Ram last turn, we get to... I don't think Lilia does it. I think we discard the Lilia. If we had equipped the Ram last turn, then this attack is a trade. And then the Rals can potentially sweep up the Terramander. We needed to draw Fanged Flames there to clear the 4 toughness Familiar. Because we didn't, I think we're just dead, right? Because they move everything over to the Terramander. Yeah. Yeah, I believe we're dead. We needed to equip the Ram last turn instead of playing the Ral and the Implicit Maze. That's unfortunate. Mirror match opponent was just a little bit more aggressive and on the play. Alright. Yeah, this is a tough run. We've been stuck in the middle of Platinum for a minute now. You know, that's what, total record 29 and 26 in Platinum. Not exactly a highlight, not exactly something that I would highlight on a Mythic run. But it is important to know that sometimes you just lose. We had some pretty bad draws, but we also had some opponents who played well, and that's fine. That's just how it is. You should always expect your opponents to play well. You get a gift if your opponent doesn't, and that's just part of the game. But yeah, 29 and 26, not a great start, not a great mid-season run, I guess. Draft number 12. We only have 1 trophy so far in 12 drafts for this season. Yeah, things just don't seem to want to come together, but we can still go on a run. Like, I know how I ended the season, so I know ultimately where the numbers wind up. Yeah, my goal is still 60% win rate. 60% win rate through ranked matches is going to not quite free roll you, but let's just say I buy gems like once every 3 months, and then that's enough to keep me going for 3 months worth of drafting. So it's not gonna completely free roll you, but it's a good enough statistic that you can more or less do whatever you want to do on Arena. And again, just like the pride of being able to get into the top 1,000 players on Arena. Like there's a lot of players on Arena, and being able to point to a number, point to a rank that shows that you were one of the best. I still intend for the top 1,000. Like that is the goal. That is what we were shooting for in July. And yeah, we're gonna go until we get there. So we're gonna take these slumps where we have some losing streaks, some bad drafts in a row, but we will ultimately turn it around because we have to. We're going to. We are good enough to do so. So whether it's just buckling down, taking a couple days off, I know coming up here in a while, there's about a week where I didn't draft, just kind of collected my thoughts and figured out what we were doing. So anyway, thanks everybody who's along for the ride. We'll see you in the next one.